Hey guys, Adrian Clarke here. I hope you're well. Today's show is going to be analysis of Arsenal's disappointing 1-0 defeat to Tottenham Hotspur earlier on today. It's a game that I co-commentated on. So we'll be talking about some of the tactical stuff, the good, the not so good. We'll discuss Viktor Gyokeres' debut, set pieces as well. And also we'll get to my main man a little bit later on. So make sure you stick around for that. Right, let's get cracking and start. I think there's only really one place that we can start, and that is with analysis of the only goal of the game. It came from Pape Sarr. I mean, from a Tottenham point of view, they were absolutely thrilled with it. Goal from just past the halfway line over the top of David Raya. But from a gunner's point of view, there'll certainly be issues there, certainly be one or two regrets over the way that it came about. So I don't know how many of you have seen it or not, but it starts with David Raya. He's got the ball at his feet, and he's probably more than halfway towards the halfway line. And there's a couple of Spurs wide forwards, and he wants to go and play a pass in between them into Miles Lewis-Skelly, who's come into central midfield. He's smack bang in the middle of the pitch. So he plays that pass into Miles, and Spurs swarm on him. They're all over him like a rash. There's 4 white shirts on him, and they steal the ball, and he chips it over David Raya into the back of the empty net. So really, really disappointing goal. On further inspection, I didn't see it at first on commentary. There was actually a foul. Richarlison accidentally clipped the legs of Miles Lewis-Skelly, so that forced him to trip up. And I think that if VAR was being used, it probably would have been disallowed. But it doesn't really sort of detract from the point of the discussion. The point is the risk, or is the reward rather, worth the risk of making that pass? And I think that is something that we need to look at. Definitely. We know that David Raya wants to play high up the pitch. He wants to get involved as that extra defender, and I've got no issue with him playing progressive distribution. I've got no issue at all with feeding the ball into Miles Lewis-Skelly. He's one of the most press-resistant players in the Premier League. He's brilliant at holding the ball and popping it off and keeping it safely for the team. But every now and again, it will go wrong, and it did on this occasion. Now, if that's a centre-back and not David Raya feeding that pass into Miles Lewis-Skelly, not a problem for me, because you've got David Raya back inside his own box. We lose the ball. Okay, it could be a problem. It could be a turnover that they create an attack from, but the goal isn't empty. But if David Raya is that last man, and there's a pass in there where there's 3-4 Spurs players ready to pounce, is the reward of him potentially playing through the lines worth the risk of maybe losing the ball there and they score the goal? My opinion, no. So it'd be fascinating to see what happens moving forwards with that kind of situation. Centre back, not a problem. If it's David Raya, probably prefer, unless there's a load of space, probably prefer him to go wider or to play a little bit more direct, which is something he did plenty of in the game. So let's get to that. Actually, one of my big tactical observations here was the amount of long passes that Arsenal made in the game. Early on, Saliba and David Raya were looking to ping long diagonals to Bukayo Saka over Jed Spence, and I thought it worked terrifically well. Actually, he got in a couple of times, and it's something that we've seen throughout the Asian tour that I like. I think it's a ploy that we should use a little bit more often. Just go, instead of going 2, 3, 4 passes to get it to Saka, if we can go in one where you can get in beyond the last man, let's try it every now and again. And it did cause Tottenham 1 or 2 issues. But the pattern of this game really was, it was scrappy, it was a poor playing surface, and passing wasn't actually that easy. But what we saw from Raya was that he went long, time and time again. And it did actually cause 1 or 2 problems. Obviously, it's a percentage play, but he's trying to pick out Kai Havertz, who flicked 1 or 2 on, and it caused problems. And he held it nicely on a couple of occasions. There was one time where it sort of bounced off him to Martinelli, who made a run in beyond him actually, and we created a chance from it. So it can certainly pay off, but I don't think anyone wants to see Arsenal play that direct week in, week out. But on occasion we will do it, and we did it a lot in this game. So yeah, that's something to look out for moving forwards. Creativity was an issue in the game, not just for Arsenal actually, but for Tottenham as well. It was a poor quality match in terms of what we saw from both teams on the ball inside the final third, really. Spurs might say, well, we hit the post 3 times, and they did. But 2 of those came from set-piece situation. Only one from a move that causes problems where White didn't get quite close enough to Odobert, who passed the ball and it hit the far post. But in general, the creativity was a problem. Spurs scored from their only shot on target. Arsenal had 1 shot on target. It was straight at Vicario. The shot count actually was well in Arsenal's favour, 16-6. So, when you reflect on the game, Spurs didn't really cause Arsenal too many problems, but I would say that Arsenal didn't cause Tottenham enough. What I would point out is that 9 of Arsenal's 16 shots were blocked. And that, I think, credit for that has to go in part to Thomas Frank and the players for, they look better. They look better organised at the back, certainly more resilient. So from their point of view, they'll be thrilled at the way they sort of threw their bodies in the way of Arsenal's shots. But could we have been cuter? Could we have moved the ball quicker? Could we certainly have run in beyond the last man and penetrated to Tottenham a little bit more often? I think the answer to all of those questions is yes. We did look a little bit sluggish inside the final third, and that combination play that we love to see just wasn't there. Was it down to the pitch? A bit. Was it down to Tottenham's physicality? Almost certainly. Did Spurs defend well? Yes, they did. So, you can look at all of those things. I also think there was a bit of fatigue there. What you've got to remember is pre-season and the players are training hard. Let me tell you, maybe not as hard as in the old days when I played, when they used to run us ragged, really, really physical sessions. It's a bit sharper these days, but they're working really, really hard, day in, day out in hot, humid conditions. And I just felt that maybe they were flagging a little bit in this particular game. I think once Arsenal have a couple of days rest travelling home, the training in a different environment, a different type of training maybe, they'll sort of taper down the physical stuff a little bit. I think we'll see a much sharper Arsenal against Villarreal and Athletic Bilbao. So yeah, look, the final ball wasn't good. A lot of our final third play wasn't what we expected to be, but there were different circumstances there. One thing I did spot, and I think that was pretty obvious in the game, is that the right side worked much better than the left. Obviously, Miles Lewis-Skelly didn't really offer a lot going forward, so that left winger was a touch isolated, whether that was Martinelli or Trossard. But Trossard came on, looked sharp, then had to come off, which was a real shame. But yeah, Martinelli probably lost out in the duel with Pedro Porro. It was absolutely outstanding in the match. He was terrific, Pedro Porro. So left side didn't really function as well as you'd want. The right side was much better. Saka did well again. Caused 1 or 2 problems. Even though he didn't score or make a goal, he looked bright. Max Dowman, when he came off the bench, no surprise there. He looked lively. Put a beautiful cross in for Zinchenko. Had a good volley as well. And we kept feeding the ball. Ødegaard and Saliba kept giving the ball to Max Dowman. And he was as positive as you'd expect him to be. And Ben White, he didn't have a perfect game. He had 1 or 2 problems defensively with Odobert. Some of his passes went astray, but he did give us a little bit of a dimension down that right-hand side. He went on the overlap. He timed one of them absolutely perfectly, got to the byline and cut the ball back, which was outstanding, actually. And he tried his best to make things happen. Yeah, the final ball maybe could have been better, but Ben White has looked good on tour. He's looked really dynamic, and he's offered penetration down that side of the field. So down the right, I've got absolutely no issues. I think we've played well on tour. Down the left, not quite as dynamic. Right, let's get to Viktor Gyokeres. He made his debut. Didn't get long. It was 12 minutes. Maybe it was pretty 15, 16 minutes when you count the added time. But he fed off scraps. It was pretty scrappy at the point where he came on. We looked to go long over the top to him a couple of times. It didn't come off. The only really moment that really stood out to me was we fed 1 ball into the box and he moved off his man and he brought it down quite magnificently. It was a great touch and he set it back nicely for Martin Zubimendi, who snatched at the shot. So that was a good piece of hold-up play from Gyokeres. But we're going, as Mikel Arteta said afterwards, we're going to see a much brighter, sharper Gyokeres in the games at Emirates Stadium once he's a little bit more fitter and once Arsenal are playing better, because let's be honest, Arsenal didn't play brilliantly in this particular match. I want to talk about set pieces at both ends of the pitch. Defensively, obviously, we had our issues last year, conceding 14 goals from corners and wide free kicks. Well, in this game, Spurs tried to pin David Raya onto his goal line. They put Mickey van der Ven on him, and I thought he fouled him twice. I've got to be honest. He was grappling, and I think that it should have been blown up, but it didn't get blown up for a foul. And those two balls came across the 6-yard box and hit the far post. And we were fortunate not to concede. Richarlison missed an open goal, and from the other one, it fell to, maybe it was Richarlison again, but Saliba did a good block. So so we'll see what happens moving forwards. But it looked to me as if they deliberately targeted Thomas Frank. This is David Raya, trying to pin him in, and other teams will look to copy that. So we have to find a solution, no doubt about that. At the other end of the pitch, we did create one or two things from set pieces that were okay, and there was a brand new set piece. So that's the thing I really want to talk about. A brand new set piece. Well, 5 players lined up on the edge of the box. There were some at the far post as usual. Tottenham had Rozehnal players. There were 5 on the edge of the box from corners. Now, you can't man mark players on the edge of the box. You just can't do it. So I like the idea first and foremost because it gives you a run. You're running from deep, so you've got to really time it well. It's harder to time your runs into the box to meet the cross when you're running from further. But I like the premise of the set piece, and what we saw was either 3 or 4 of those 5 players make darting runs to various parts of the box. 1 or 2 stayed on the edge of the box, but I don't think opponents are going to be able to tell what's going to happen. So it's a set piece to absolutely look out for in the weeks and months to come. I think we're going to see a lot of it, and it looks like Nicolas Chauvert has revealed his hand a little bit. We didn't score from it, but I did feel that we played okay from those situations. So the set pieces, as always, are going to be really, really important for us. We've got to defend them better. We're going, on attack. I think we all realise that we're going to score goals, particularly when Gabriel Magalhaes is back fit and available. We really, really hope that he can feature along with Yuri and Timber in the games at Emirates Stadium against the 2 La Liga sides. Tactically, it was a really scrappy game, as I've said, and I think a lot of that was to do with the fact that it was a derby, that it was a poor pitch, and also that there was a lot of physicality. I mean, Saka was brought down 7 or 8 times. There was a lot of fouls in the game. The referee was a bit whistle happy. They tried to knock us around. Kai Havertz, to be fair, there was one brilliant moment where he goes shoulder to shoulder with Van der Ven and he knocks him flying. That weight training certainly paid off for Kai Havertz there. So that was good, but there was a lot of times where Spurs knocked us out of our rhythm. We didn't string 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 passes together because they were getting in our face and disrupting the flow. And that was a problem at times last year. And opponents for Arsenal in the Premier League are going to do that. So we've got to find a way. I think once we get fitter and sharper and the playing surface is better, conditions are better, we'll play around that physicality. But in this match, it was a struggle. And I think that's partly why we weren't anywhere near our best. Now, those of you that used to watch the breakdown will know that the second last segment of that was always main man, basically my player of the match. So I'm going to bring it back here on my YouTube channel. Why not? So my main man in this game, and when we get to the Premier League matches, by the way, I'll add in a few more stats and we'll get some graphics going, etc. Today I'm recording this offline because I've got 1 or 2 issues with my internet. So hoping to jazz things up as we go. So please bear with me on that. But main man is William Saliba. I thought he looked really accomplished in the game. He nearly scored early on with a flick header inside the box. He blocked a shot from a rebound that was probably destined for the back of the net. But in general, I really liked his distribution. I thought he fizzed pass after pass, particularly to the right, whether it's to Saka, to Ødegaard, to Dauman later on. Real quality from Saliba on the ball. I thought that he defended well. He went touch tight. He followed Spurs players into their own half and was strong with them. And when we needed him to use his pace to cover and to tidy things up, he did that, and he did that with aplomb as well, William Saliba. So yeah, lots I think to like about his performance. I think over the course of the whole tour, actually, he's been pretty impressive, Big Willie. And what happened when Christian Mosquera came on, who looked big and strong and comfortable himself? he moved to the left, William Saliba. We don't see a lot of that, but it was a seamless change for him. So yeah, William Saliba is my main man in this match. Slim pickings, if I'm being honest, in terms of quality from Arsenal performers, but he was the standout for me. So there we go. Really looking forward to the players being back at Emirates Stadium. I can't wait. I'll be at the Villarreal game. I think I'm going to be pitch side for Arsenal on that one. So yeah, hopefully we'll see a better performance and we'll see a little bit more fitness and sharpness, and we'll see certainly more of Viktor Gyokeres as well. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this particular analysis. I really do appreciate all the support on this channel. It's absolutely fantastic to have you with us. And yeah, look, I'll see you soon. Bye for now.